Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on NCBNTT. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today I talk, as usual, football, but I talk Trinidad football and specifically the upcoming general election. Joining me on the set is Jefferson George, who I haven't seen in ages. Welcome to the set, Jeff.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to be here.
The viewers wanted to know where, they keep asking me, where is Jefferson? Where is Jefferson? I said, Jefferson is going to be here soon.
Yeah,
he has a lot of things on his plate. So, what was keeping you away from the set? The viewers want to know.
I don't know, Steve, you know, how it is. We've been back and forth. I was with the youth, the under-20 team, and they recently played in the qualification tournament. Of course, we were not successful to move on. So, yeah, I've been occupied. Yeah.
We can catch up on that thing, but get into what we want to talk about today is the upcoming general election, presidential election. I say general, presidential election for Ttfa. It's not the country general election, Ttfa. Give me some feedback on what you think. Are you happy with how things are unfolding?
In a general sense, to say happy, I'd have to say no. Right? One of the things that, well, there were discussions among the membership and so on, with, you know, some issues with the Constitution. Right? Again, it's not going to be permanent because the Constitution is something that can be amended by the members as we move forward. But, I mean, with one of the mandates, that was one of the mandates that the nomination committee had, which was done, you know, early this year, I believe. And again, as we go into an election, one of the things that, you know, I've been, you know, talking to other members about was coming out of it. How do we, you know, reshape ourselves to gather the most consensus from the members so that we restart without trying to fracture or split up an already quite you know, fractured football fraternity. And, you know, my suggestion was that we should attempt not to have an election, but the members of the Ttfa should, you know, rally behind someone, and we put forward a person who would represent the thoughts, the ideas, the vision of the collective football fraternity. And that person would be accountable, of course, to the members. Obviously, that didn't happen, right? And we now into election season, so here we are. So again, just providing that background in terms of my mindset and how I would have liked, if it would have been perfect, to see things done. Where we are now, of course, for the viewers' benefit, we have two candidates who would be vying for the presidency, and with them they have a slate of 9 persons. Right? So you have two candidates, each with a slate of 9 persons, including the president themselves. So you have Mr. Kieran Edwards and Mr. Colin Wolf as the two persons vying for the presidency. And again, that's where we are at the moment. And of course, we are in the season where they are now making their pitches to the membership for election.
But I think it's good how they started off with about 4 or 5 people wanting to be, and it broke down really nice into 2 good, strong candidates. But and we don't know how that's going to split, how that's going. that's going to turn out. But song's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel we have to make it happen, because otherwise the normalization committee is going to be here for another 2 years or whatever. So all of that is working out for us. But the question is, do we have the right two people running for this? And because I really don't have a big say on who is who and what is what. Do you?
Yeah. Well, today, as we go along, we try to see if we could, provide for the viewers a little insight as to who the persons are who, as much as we know, of course. All right. As you mentioned, there were 4 confirmed, and there were rumblings that there might have been a couple more interested.
Right. Yes.
And of course, that for me would have been the nightmare situation because of all the wranglings that would have caused. And when it began to dwindle, it looked as though I may have got my wish, where we ended up with 1, but then you had the confirmation of Colin to confirm after that he's going to run.
Right.
In terms of who they are, in the football fraternity, I don't think either of them would be considered a high profile or very well known candidates. Mr. Edwards, of course, more recently being a member of the director of Ascension, right? So they would have been responsible for running the Ascension tournament. He was active in the period of when we had the pandemic, being active in the marches and so on to get football restarted, right? Those are some of the things that I recall of Mr. Edwards, right? Mr. Worf, with his background, again, professionally, around sports administration and stuff, again, if you're in it, you're going to know, about him as well. But as I said, from the perspective of having big names that people would, probably automatically recognize, in terms of the 2 gentlemen vying for the presidency, that is not the bill that they fit.
The thing that jumped out at me more than any was the 2 slates does not have much people from South Trinidad. Everything is up north. So like the north is taken, it's going back to the days when the national team used to be a lot of north players, and we changed that. My generation changed that. But now it's going back to that, and I feel like, spread it out a little bit and get. So if I was running, just off of that alone, I would include some people from the south, so I can get some of the southern votes.
Yeah.
But nobody thought about that, I guess, and they're running that way. So it's left to be seen what's going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of votes in the South.
Of course.
So somebody can pick up. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, and actually, I didn't actually think about that. So again, that's why sometimes when you begin to critically assess something, there are things that are obvious, and there are some things that you'll have to actually comb through to see. Again, when you look at the names and you see who they are, where they come from, who they represent, right? In terms of that, I think in terms of the balance of the slate, I would say that Kieran Edwards has a more balanced slate, balanced in the terms of representative persons across the football fraternity, right? Different aspects and so on. The Colin Worf slate is probably a little bit more narrow, although they are professional people, they are competent people, and they are persons who would be able to perform, tasks creditably and so on. But the point you're making about representation is critical, and it's one of the things that I think most of the members should pay attention to, because I think it will give us insight as to how a potential president will govern. All right. In that regard, I've seen from the Edwards slate, a willingness to collaborate, to reach out, and again, I think being very active, among the membership, chairing a couple of the members' meetings to deal with issues relating to football in general. We had a couple meetings to discuss the Constitution, right? Familiarize ourselves with it as members and so on. And he was able to chair those. And again, it shows the willingness, again, to not be a one-man type show, where the persons on the slate is also not a group of his friends or peers, right? So again, they come with different competencies and would represent a broad spectrum across the football fraternity. However, as you say, both slates lack representation in terms of geography, where South seems to be a little bit left out. We have to talk to them about that.
Definitely, and there's people on the slate that, like you said, does not have a lot of is not well recognized to the public as a footballing slate. It's like, they have people who had some kind of influence or some kind of representation in football, but it's a lot of people that I don't know.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't think I even know everybody on the slate.
Right.
Yeah,
that is true, and again, one of the strengths, you could say, that you can get from both slates. Well, of course, it's mandatory that you have women represented there and so on. Again, whether you argue whether that's good or bad, but at least it's representative, right? Just as we try to mention there, maybe in the future you would have to try to get them put in terms of your representation in terms of, let's say, the zones, right? So you ensure the entire country is covered, right? Tobago included, right? And that is something also that is a part of the Constitution, right? One good thing, so many good things in the new Constitution. But for me, I don't think somebody who is not well known is an automatic weakness. I think it will call for the members who have the responsibility of voting to actually do some investigation to find out who they are. Again, you'd be able to judge the willingness to these people to reach out. Because if you don't know who they are, of course they have to, introduce themselves. They have to make themselves known and to present themselves to the public, right? Remember, you're going to vote, so you're asking somebody to vote for you. So you need to show yourself, right? And again, that is just a normal part of campaigning and making your presenting a vision for football going forward.
This election, I'm like, this is a Maple versus Malvern kind of game against in the north. But just for our viewers to know, Colin Wolf's slate has first vice president is who?
I have the list, but it's not. It doesn't come to me.
All right.
Oh, that's the guy from the army.
Okay,
a brigadier
first
general,
vice
something
president.
like that. Right.
And then the girl she's from Central.
John Williams. John Williams.
Daughter.
No, I think from South. Yeah, she's from South. Yeah,
they're from South. Okay,
yeah, they're from South. Yeah.
So and she's a second vice president.
She's supposed to be second vice president.
And third vice president is you remember who it is? I don't.
No, I'll try to get it.
Okay.
So we can call them up.
And on the other side, Kieran Edwards.
Yeah.
His first vice president is Donna?
Yeah, first
Or the second?
Second. Yeah, first or second.
He
I can't remember how. He's one of the vice presidents.
He's one of the vice presidents, and then we have a couple others. Oh, no, he's the second. Colin
Murray.
Right,
Right,
he's the
Colin
first
Murray.
vice president.
Colin Murray, yeah. Then you have
Donna is second. And who's the third vice president on that state? Oh, the boy from Super League.
Riggs, yeah.
Riggs,
yeah.
right. So I mean, it's really hard to.
I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it. I think or Riggs.
Riggs or something. Yeah, he was on the show before.
Right.
He's not a bad boy. He's
and that's what I'm saying. So it's a group of persons. I mean, there is the critique of I've heard Mr. Downer with his age and so on, but I mean, anybody who talks to Mr. Downer, even in the AGMs and so on, he is very vocal, very active. Of course, he has a wealth of wisdom and understanding, and brings obviously a different perspective to a group, right, which is that slate.
Yep. He's constitution expert, man.
Yeah, but it's exactly. Again, he was the one who, done a lot of work and research on constitution and so on.
Right. And this election is going to be a good one, I hope.
Yeah.
Unless something changes that makes it not. They're going to have to get 60% of the quorum or whatever to.
No, well, in terms of the votes, it's for presidency you'd need to get over 50%, all right, and the makeup, the new structure of the, or if you want to put it, the allocation of votes. One of the points that was mentioned in our discussions as members was that the new league, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 Premier Leagues, has the majority of members. So if someone is able to gather all the votes in those blocks, right, you can actually win an election by just securing one group of votes, right? So, I mean, that was one of the things, and again, not trying to, ascribe any ill intent in terms of the framing, but there's definitely something that is not seen in other constitutions, right? So you have, let's say, your Premier League and your second tier. The totality of those votes can actually win an election.
Let's take a break, because this is interesting. When we come back, we would get to that point about the blocks of votes that's available. Viewers, we'll be right back after a short break.
Hi, I am Nigel. Quote Me Today is your daily motivational segment to start your day right. Join me Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. right here on NCBN. Remember, wake up with a smile. Today is your day.
Straight, that's why when we fetting, we just bet hard when we jamming, we just jam down when we drinking, man is strong from a pop a bottle right now when we fetting, we just bet hard when we jamming, we just jam down when we drinking, man is strong from a pop a bottle, push up your hand.
Trimbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBNTT Television Network.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. To the ones now tuning in, you're looking at Field of Dreams on NCBNTT. I'm Steve David, and I'm the host. And joining me in the set today is Jefferson George, and Jefferson is going to give us all the expertise on what's happening today. Or not today, but on the election, the coming election. That's what we're talking about. So, Jeff, before the break, we were talking about the blocks, the two blocks with the tier 1 and tier 2, right? And then before that, we couldn't even explain who the slate was.
The complete slate. Yeah.
I think you have something on that now, so the viewers can know who those people are.
Yeah. So you see, I'm not an expert.
Right.
If I was an expert, I'd be able to call it out. So, but this is the information that we have from the slates. The first one I'll call out is the Colin Worth, right, as president. Keston Charles, first vice president. Rene John Williams, second vice president. Hugh Cadet for third. And then you have the ordinary members.
Right.
Colin De Freitas, Richard Mason, Lee Davis, Riaz Ali, and Makan Hislop. All right, so that is the those who would be vying for the slate under Mr. Worth. Right, Mr. Kieran Edwards as president on the other slate. His slate is actually named the Progressive, Team Progressive. All right. So Kieran Edwards for president, Colin Murray, first vice president, Mr. Osmond Dongner, second vice president, Mr. James Reges, third vice president. The ordinary members are Mr. Ryan Nunes, Ms. Alicia Austin, Alan Logan, Andre Bordeaux, and Shelton Williams. All right, so those are the 9 names on the 2 slates, right, just for members' information.
Right, good. Viewers, you got it. So now, we were also talking about the way it's broken up.
Yeah.
The blocks that you referred to. And I don't know nothing about that. I am so naive to this election stuff because I always had a problem with how these things run and it's who has the most money or who has the most friends don't win it and all of that. Nobody puts real serious effort into selecting the best candidate for that position because it's a big position that drives your football and whether it succeeds or not. And that's how I feel.
Of course. Of course.
So explain that to
me. Again, no, there are things that would be ideal. There are things that, probably would be recommended or advised to do. And then we have the reality which exists. And again, I already, voiced my, I don't really support the idea of having the slates. And one of the obvious things that having the slates cause is that I don't see within us, and this is not just for football, I think in the general running of an institution that has a political aspect to it, you are forced to back this side or that side, Now, for instance, a member might like the president of this slate, I like the second vice president on this slate, but the first vice president on that slate. And as you say, your democracy is diluted when you have these slates. Because now I like this person, but I have to stick with members on this slate. And that is actually in the Constitution. You can't split you can't split your vote.
Yeah.
So again, it begs the question as to you're not really allowed to choose who you believe is the best person for each position.
Right.
Right? You're choosing the best slate. Now, one of the obvious fallouts from that is, and I'm hoping that we don't get that as of now, I haven't seen any kind of, mudslinging, as you would call it, and people really going after each other in a personal way. Now, if you have a critique, it is a critique, a general factual critique is based in fact and so on, that this is why I cannot choose this person, right? You have a strength, okay, this is why I would choose this person. And the process by which we elect people to different office, I think a lot of times you have scars and animosity being built up in the selection process or the election process, and it carries over into the governance, right? So this person, remember, that person called me, this name that he didn't like, and then into governance now, although the election is over, you carry in this into it, and it affects now the governance. And once the governance is affected, the football is affected, and if the football is affected, now we all back to where we started, and that is one of the things that I said. In the ideal situation, you would be able to probably choose who you want, and again, members as we go forward can advocate for such things and make proposals to have the Constitution as a whole amended. Be it as it may, we are now left with what we have, and again, I say it will be up to the slates now to convince the members why they should vote for, and in this case, the choice is a little bit simplified because you only have one of two to choose. So, the members will have to decide that after the slates make their pitch.
So it's slate versus slate, and if you don't like an individual on one slate, that might be the thing to sway you to vote for the other slate.
For the other slate, yeah. So exactly. So one individual from this side may choose may make your decision on who is president, right. And now the person might be the president on that slate.
Exactly.
So it might be somebody you go through. Oh, I like this person. But again, do you hold your nose and still vote because there's a good person for candidate and what have you? Or do you just say, well, let me go with the other set? And again, I'm saying it's one of those things that is not really ideal. All that being said, I would support the members as going through this process and again having to come through normalization. I would hope that we would have gained a little bit more maturity in terms of how we operate. I'm hoping that we see now the members themselves taking more responsibility for decisions being made by the executive. Right? One of the things for me in terms of the setup, and regardless of what form the Ttfa structure takes, we still have members who the executive has to account to, and regardless of their ideas, whether they be good, bad, or indifferent, they have to be brought to the membership. So at the end of the day, you have the members having an important role in holding the incoming executive to account, right, and not allowing any type of, you know, misrepresentation or any abuse of power, abuse of funds, you know, abuse of office to take place and to continue.
So, well, I thought it was always like slate against slate, because so we saying that if you vote for the president and then you vote for the first vice president, if the winner of the whole thing and a vice president from the other side would have won, he would be on this.
Yeah, well, on the executive. On the executives, right? So there are constitutions that work like that, because your vote is you have an open vote, right? Yeah. And again, in the ideal sense, that is what a maximum amount of democracy amongst the members, because it allows me to vote for who I want to vote for, right? Yeah. So then the composition of the executive does not necessarily reflect a slate. You understand? And I think that makes for a stronger kind of democracy, because then the emphasis there will not be on the slate per se, but on the incoming executive, because that is those are the people who the members want, right? So in this current constitution, it may not represent who the people actually want, but who they were forced to settle for, in some cases. Right?
And I don't think a first vice president or second or third or whatever would affect somebody's vote as much. I think they're really voting for those two.
For the first two, right?
Two head.
Yeah, and yeah. Now we could look at that in several ways. The reason someone would pick, and I'll share a different view on that, because I've heard the argument as well. When you look through the slate, you would need people who will actually challenge the president at times. You understand what I'm saying? So the president does not necessarily have to be the strongest, most dominant one in the slate, right? But one who can, again, as I said, keep a core group together and create the environment for ideas and thoughts and plans, you know, to be ventilated in a real rigorous manner, and then out of that come out with the best idea for football, right? Rather than a president who is going to say, you know, we go in with this, and everybody else, I just say, yes, men, shake their head and say, yeah, we will do that, you know.
I mean, we can only speculate. And,
well, again, we can, yeah.
I can see on one slate, they have people who is like what you're saying. They're very strong-minded.
Exactly.
And
they wouldn't go along with, you know, much foolishness, right? Yeah.
Which is good. And
I believe that we need that, and that's why I'm saying, even if we do have a slate that becomes, not a slate, sorry, but an executive that becomes rogue, the member's responsibility is to hold them in check, you know. So I still don't see a slate, and that's why I'm saying the membership has to understand who really has the authority, right?
Yeah, I got a question for you though, on this, because if one of the slates have a black chicken on it, that I know they have to go through some kind of qualification process. You know, the background.
Right, describe black chicken for me.
Who has something against that person on their background? Background. They had run-ins with the police, whatever. So that
you can also red chicken. All right,
So if you have somebody like that, that means they're going to cancel the entire slate.
Yeah.
And if the entire slate is canceled, what's going to happen with the election?
So that again is a good consideration, because what happens in the scenario where if one person is qualified, is the whole slate disqualified? See, that you have to choose from the that's a good consideration. I haven't looked at.
The only thing it could be is that they're gonna have to get, for a landslide vote, they're gonna have to get at least 60% of the
membership.
The membership.
Well, yeah, that is
yeah.
The total amount of votes now, if I recall correctly, is 54, I believe.
I mean, to have the election.
Yeah.
It has to have a certain amount of people
for the quorum.
For the quorum.
Yes.
To have the election.
Yes.
How much is that? 60%?
Yeah. I think it is.
So,
60%.
if that happens and we don't get 60% of the quorum, then that would cancel everything and we start all over.
Right.
Again.
Well, again, that is normal practice. But again, that is not. I don't think that would be a feature of the slates themselves, but really the membership, because there are persons who would be on your slates and so on, and they represent also different teams, right? So you have like the tier 2 teams, the tier 1 team, sorry, they have 2 votes, right? 1 delegate but 2 votes. So they have 2, that's how the votes are actually allotted. So in terms of the quorum, I don't think that is under threat of being sabotaged, if that's what you're saying. Because again, if that vote would go left or right, they would still need the vote, right? So either side would. I don't see one side being gaining any benefit in sabotage.
Well, let me explain. Numbers. If I was running on one side,
right,
and I have a black chicken that they identify,
right,
and no, you out. My whole group is out, and your group will win election by a landslide because you have everybody. But I'm now going to lobby with the rest of the population to don't one vote, or not the population, but you know what I'm saying, the populated group who can vote.
Because you aren't ready.
Because we're not in.
Okay.
We got kicked out because I have a black chicken in my midst, right? So if I can get less than 60% of the quorum,
right, then it means you will.
They can't have the election.
Yeah, it'll be off. Right. Yeah. Well. Again, making quorum is I guess standard. So
right.
For whatever reason, if they hold sway of a certain portion, right? And I think at this point in time, there's only one, not in the slate, but one group amongst the members that would be able to gather that amount would be the tier 1 and tier 2 clubs in the Premier League.
All right, here what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, right? When we come back, I want to hear who you think is the front runner, and if you have that such thought, and if not, we would talk a little bit more about Trinidad football and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBNTT Television Network.
Change Talk TV, tell us our boy better stay calm, be cool.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Decision time, Jeff. The people, my viewers, I know, they're waiting to hear what you think about the front runner. Who you think in this election is going to be is a front runner? And if you don't have any thoughts, say you don't have any thoughts. But if you do, what do you think?
All right. No, of course I do have thoughts, but to say who would the front runner be? Actually, yesterday, yeah, it could have been yesterday. You know, I was talking to somebody and asking for a feel as to what does it look like, right? And at this moment, the way how things have been a little bit quiet, it's difficult to see who has an edge or who has an advantage, right? And I said, the one who I would say have been doing more work a little more publicly and a little more openly would be the Team Progressive, all right, because they have been engaging with, different, not just individual members, but groups of members, right? They would have kept, meetings with the Coach Association as well. So that they're active, they're doing the work, they're gathering information as to what the different stakeholders would want out of football, what is their vision for their specific zone and things like that. So they are doing that kind of work in terms of the Mr. Wolf. Obviously, they have put together their slate and so on. So they are doing work, but it's not. I can't speak to that, right? So, and of course, based on the other members who is in support of which slate, I don't think that is as clear or apparent at this point in time. So we might be in for some surprises, but I think both slates will have a lot of work to do, going forward to convince the membership.
Well, I don't know if you heard word on the ground, but I have. And the word on the ground is if Colin Wolf's slate wins, the normalization committee is still in Trinidad.
Okay.
And if, so that is people talking, well, I'm not going to vote if that is going to happen, there's back and forth in these kind of things.
Right.
Have you heard anything?
I have heard that. And again, there are, of course, those of us who follow football and within that would know what is being said in that regard. One of the things relating to that for me, and again, we have not been, conducted by Mr. Wolf as yet, but one of his statements that was made publicly, all right, is that, he wants to continue the work of the nomination committee, all right. I am not sure
that's a good
what that means. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So, we'll have to look and see, of course, as a person in football, I'm willing to engage and to listen to discussions and the ideas as to how we can move football forward. And that is what I think all members should be really focused on. The perception that it is a continuation of the nomination committee, again, and I said, that will have to be dispelled by that slate, right? They would have to, again, present their own vision for football, because that was not the mandate of the NC. Whether you like what they did or did not, the vision for football going forward was not the mandate of the NC, right? They had three specific mandates, which is to run day-to-day football, right? Obviously, because we had no, Woodley had no Ttfa, so they were to run the daily affairs of football. They were to come up with a debt reduction plan, and they were to make amendments to the Constitution. Three specific items. Again, one might argue whether those things were done well or wasn't done well, but to say you're going to continue that it's the reason we have an election is because their job is complete.
Right.
Right. Their specific job has been complete. So now we need a vision for football going forward.
And none of these candidates so far has put out a manifesto there.
A manifesto,
for
right.
the vision.
Right. Well,
on
again,
football.
that is always expected in a scenario of an election, right? From the progressive team, again, those are the ones who reached out, and the explanation was that they don't want to give you a manifesto, right? Of course, there's a statement that was put out by the team as to how they're going to conduct themselves and so on. But beyond that, they are building consensus among the membership before putting something in place, so that when they put their vision in place, it would represent or reflect the thoughts and ideas of the membership. I think that is a very strong way to do it, because as I said, if we weren't going to have an election, that is the manner in which you would have to build consensus, right? So yes, you have your general vision as to what you want to see in football, but if you represent the members, then you want the vision of football to represent the ideas and the views that come from within the membership. So again, we're going to have to wait to see what they eventually come up with, right? Which they say is supposed to reflect the membership, and then we would see, what the Mr. Worf slate comes up with, and then members are going to choose based on, what was presented by those two.
So going forward, whoever wins, what would you like to see change?
Well, there's a lot, as we know, that has to be changed. But one of the significant things for me is the abandonment of the idea that one person can fix football, right? Like we coming and this person is going to save us. Nobody's going to save us. We have to save ourselves. And again, as members of the Ttfa and all the stakeholder groups, we have to begin to, one, in our area, work to improve our group, right? So as members, right? So for instance, the Coaches Association has to work to improve itself as a member. The stronger the members of the Ttfa become, is the stronger the Ttfa will be. All zones have to work independently to strengthen themselves, right? And I mean, the way that it will normally be looked at in the zones would look to the FA to get what is. Now, obviously, there is nothing there, right? So zones have to build a level of independence and autonomy so that they can run efficiently. They can fund programs, right? And that is what will strengthen the Ttfa. Now, it does not mean that the Ttfa does not have a responsibility for providing resources, for pointing in a general direction where we're going, right, as a leader. But there's a responsibility for me that I would like to see members take up, each member strengthen themselves, and as a whole, the Ttfa will be strengthened as such.
And I agree with you, but I disagree on, we strengthen the zones, and the zones are as solid as ever, and that's it. They just play in the zone. They don't not beyond the zone.
So good. So that's where I started. So I started where we so we can do that. If we do that, again, we have a solid foundation with which now we can build, right? The second part is I'll go to finance, because everything would need that. Now, one of the things that I think the incoming administration would have to treat with is something that the nomination committee was supposed to treat with, which is the debt, right? I mean, I'm laughing juggling, but this is what it is, right? And if we are not able to increase, right, the cash flow coming into the Ttfa, then the future is dark, right? We don't have much things that we can look forward to. We have to be able to increase the amount of resources that is coming into the Ttfa in order for us to do anything. And that's why I went to that one secondly. But I realize I'm saying that if the individual members can begin to strengthen themselves and, you know, grow a little bit, you know, autonomously, then it takes a little bit a burden off the central Ttfa. Now, if you look at the other, I'm saying CONCACAF members, right? Mexico,
USA.
of course, the US,
Canada.
and the US is like a group of their own. Canada is struggling right now still, but again, when we talk about them struggling and us struggling, it's two different struggles, right? So you're looking at this, and they receive the same FIFA subvention. Imagine that. But the FIFA subvention that we receive is our main source of income, while for them, the FIFA subvention is the pocket change. Yeah, that's the, you know, I mean, for them, if they get it or not, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Compared to the amount of the money that they're getting. Now, we have to find out, you know, this is going to take time. I know it's way easier said than done. Financial, you know, prudence and again, regaining the trust of, you know, corporate Trinidad and Tobago will be an assignment that the next executive will have to undertake. Right. So then you have that, creating a good economic structure to underpin all the programs and whatnot, right? And then with that now, we need to again to renovate and to rebuild our technical programs, right? From again grassroots level, go all the way up to your senior programs, and again in that manner, not from senior come down to grassroots going the other way. So you're building a broad base from the ground up rather than how the program is normally. Now I understand the challenge because people always look to your national team for, you know, inspiration, motivation, and that is the team that has the focus of the public on it. So if your national team does well, people say, all right, the administration is doing well. But there has to be devoted and disciplined thought given to how do we restructure our grassroots and build programs that feed up towards our national and elite programs.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to comprehend how we're going to get our football back to where we want it to be when we have a TTF elite league, which is running similar to the Pro League, which has two teams. You know, I'm passionate about South, right?
Yeah.
Two teams in South. Everybody else is up in North, and one in Tobago. And I don't think it's so to include the zones would be the best. But then I think we go back to the old days with that zonal football, and then we compete against each other, and then we have North-South with people coming together, and the whole country could see the best players, and that kind of thing. And now we don't. And another thing I don't like is my coach can select all my national players. This has to be a collaboration with a few people. Not one person select and one person pick a team. And I think we have to get.
Well, that's the thing. The technical committee will
coming together.
That's one of the things that that has to be done. You know, urgently, right? Because again, while we would have had, you know, some stopgap measures in place, that as well has to be a broad effort and getting input from people from all over the country, right? And yeah, your technical programs has to be strong, right? They have to be strong, and they have to be strong in all areas. I mean, we as the Coach Association, we were looking at some models as to how we can, whether it be working through the counties, right? Like doing county football and allocating resources based on the counties and having, and of course, it's development level, right? And looking at it. I mean, there are many things that we can come up with. How it looks will be dependent on, again, after having discussions and seeing what is feasible, how we can work a development program that runs alongside the academic burdens that all our children have to bear. And that's why we was looking at something along the county structure setup, because your trainings would normally take place in the evening time, and in the current setup, if a young boy or young girl has to go to look for the best club might be, miles away from where you live. So which means you have to add a commute after school to go training and then come back home. So reorganizing that in a way that places, a minimal burden on parents and, the players themselves who have to travel and all that stuff will have to be factored in to a proper, sustainable, long-term development plan.
Like I think the best club for a kid is a club that's going to let him play.
Yeah.
And not go to somewhere and sit on a bench and can't ever get to play.
Sounds good.
So playing is the key. Anyhow, we have 1 more minute. Any closing remarks?
Yeah. Well, again, I sometimes wish that I was an optimist, but I am a realist, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but, as they say, put your seatbelts on.
We have to take that, right? Yeah. But collectively, we're going to make it happen. And I thank you for being here. As usual, good seeing you again.
No problem, I appreciate it.
And keep up with the good work. So I heard about the good things you're doing anyway.
No problem.
Viewers, thanks for tuning in every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We appreciate you. NCBNTT, thanks for the opportunity. We do have a Facebook page. You can check us out. And we do have an email address, fieldofdreamtt@gmail.com. You can drop us a line. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David. Good night.